The rain fell hard that November evening when Marcus Chin heard a knock at his penthouse door. He was reviewing quarterly reports when the sound cut through the silence. Marcus was 53 years old now, with threads of silver in his dark hair and lines around his eyes that told stories of countless business battles won and lost. He opened the door, expecting a delivery. Instead, he found a wicker basket. Inside lay a sleeping baby girl wrapped in a pink blanket, clutching a small blue teddy bear. His breath caught in his throat. A note was pinned to the blanket, written in shaky handwriting. "You promised to protect us, Marcus. You said we would always matter. Don't break your word now. Her name is Lily. She deserves the life you can give her. I'm sorry I couldn't be stronger." Marcus looked down the empty hallway. Rain streaked the windows at the far end. No one was there. He knelt beside the basket as memories flooded back. 26 years ago, he had been a struggling law student working nights at a diner to pay his tuition. That's where he met Sophie Bennett. She was a waitress with auburn hair and green eyes that sparkled when she laughed. Sophie was different from anyone he had ever known. She grew up in foster care, bouncing from home to home, never knowing stability. Despite everything, she remained hopeful. She talked about opening a small bakery someday where people would feel welcome and loved. Marcus fell for her completely. They spent 2 years together, sharing dreams and building plans. He promised her that once he graduated and built his career, he would come back for her. They would create the life she never had. He would protect her always. But then his father died suddenly. The family business was drowning in debt. Marcus had to choose between his promise to Sophie and saving his family's legacy. He chose the business. He called Sophie one last time and told her he couldn't see her anymore. He needed to focus completely on rebuilding everything his father had lost. Sophie cried and asked if he meant any of the promises he made. Marcus said yes, but circumstances had changed. He hung up before she could respond. Over the next 2 decades, Marcus transformed the failing company into one of the most successful firms in the city. He married someone from his social circle. The marriage lasted 7 years before ending quietly. He threw himself into work building wealth and reputation. But late at night, when the office was empty, he would sometimes think of Sophie and wonder what became of her dreams. Now here was this baby, Lily. Marcus carefully lifted the basket and brought it inside. The child stirred but didn't wake. He read the note again, searching for clues. The handwriting was definitely Sophie's. He would recognize it anywhere. His hands trembled as the weight of the moment settled over him. This baby was roughly 3 months old. Where was Sophie now? Why had she left the child here? Marcus called his assistant Helen, who had been with him for 15 years. She arrived within the hour despite the late time. Helen was in her early 60s, practical and unflappable. She looked at the baby, then at Marcus. "Tell me everything," she said. Marcus explained about Sophie and the promises he broke all those years ago. Helen listened, without judgment. "First things first," she said, "this baby needs care and we need to find Sophie." They contacted a private investigator Marcus trusted. Then Helen made calls to arrange temporary childcare supplies. By midnight, the penthouse was stocked with formula diapers and everything a baby might need. Marcus sat in his leather chair, watching Lily sleep in a makeshift crib. He hadn't held a baby in decades. The responsibility felt enormous. Over the next 3 days, the investigator worked to find Sophie. Marcus worked from home, unable to leave Lily. Helen helped during the days, but Marcus took the night shifts. He fed Lily at 2 in the morning and 4 and again at 6. He changed diapers and learned to recognize her different cries. One meant hunger. Another meant discomfort. A third just meant she needed to be held. Something unexpected happened during those sleepless nights. Marcus began to remember who he used to be before ambition consumed everything. He remembered wanting to help people, not just make profits. He remembered believing that success meant nothing if you had no one to share it with. On the 4th day, the investigator found Sophie. She was in a hospice center across town, staged for cancer. She had maybe weeks left. Marcus drove there immediately. Sophie's room was small but bright. She sat by the window, looking thinner and paler than he remembered, but her eyes still held that spark. Marcus, she whispered. He sat beside her, taking her hand. Why didn't you tell me you were sick? He asked. Why didn't you call sooner? Sophie smiled sadly. Because I made my own choices too, she said. After you left, I was angry for a long time. Then I met David. He was kind and steady. We married and had Lily. For 3 years we were happy. Then David died in an accident 6 months ago. That's when I got diagnosed. I have no family, Marcus. No one who can take Lily. But I remembered your promises. I remembered the man you were. I hope maybe he was still in there somewhere. Marcus felt tears burning his eyes. I broke my promise to you, Sophie. I chose money and status over what we had. I'm sorry it doesn't begin to cover it. Sophie squeezed his hand weakly. We all make choices, Marcus. I'm not angry anymore. I just want to know Lily will be loved. Can you do that? Can you give her what I can't? Marcus nodded. I promise. And this time I won't break it. Sophie died 2 weeks later with Marcus holding her hand. At her funeral, Marcus stood with Lily in his arms and promised Sophie one more time that her daughter would know love and security. The legal process to adopt Lily took months. Marcus hired the best lawyers and navigated every requirement. Helen became like a grandmother to the child, helping Marcus learn patience and tenderness he had forgotten he possessed. Marcus made other changes too. He stepped back from daily operations at his company and promoted younger leaders who shared his renewed vision. He established a foundation in Sophie's name to support single parents and foster children. He sold the penthouse and bought a house with a yard and space for Lily to grow. On Lily's first birthday, Marcus sat in the backyard, watching her toddle after butterflies. Helen brought out a cake she had baked herself. You've changed this year, Helen observed. Marcus smiled. I got a second chance I didn't deserve. Sophie gave me that. The least I can do is become the man I promised I would be. Now Marcus is 55. Lily is 3 years old. She calls him Papa and runs to him when he comes home each evening. He reads her stories before bed and takes her to the park on Saturdays. Sometimes he tells her about her mother, Sophie, who loved her more than anything in the world. He keeps photos of Sophie in Lily's room, so she will grow up knowing her mother's face. Marcus still runs his company, but he leaves at 5 each day. He hasn't missed a single bedtime in 2 years. People who knew him before say he softened. Marcus doesn't see it that way. He sees it as finally remembering what matters. One evening as he tucked Lily into bed, she looked up at him with eyes so much like Sophie's. Papa, she asked, will you always be here? Marcus kissed her forehead. Always, sweetheart. I promise. This time, he meant it with everything he had, because some promises are worth keeping, and some second chances are worth everything. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe.